3 tanks in the deck. This one gets saved. Nice job there, Oliveira. And this concave is so good for our Terran player, but is it going to be enough? As the lurkers sit down, they got range, and Oliveira on the concave. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. He may cut through this, sure, fine. And he's not even going to cut through it. His army's so dead. Bottom right in. Oh, we need to move this. We're going to try this one more time. Sorry, I realized that the sponsored thing was some things are in weird spots. We need to fix that. So we're gonna do that intro one more time because I am peering behind the corner. Bottom right in the blue. He's for Dragon Kites of Gaming. It's dark. And the upper left here in this first match of the Masters Coliseum. He is the finalist of DreamHack Atlanta. Well, actually not. He's Oliveira, though. Dark, though, is the finalist of DreamHack Atlanta, where he took down Cure pretty convincingly to make the finals, where he was promptly annihilated by Clem, which was fantastic. Clem deserves every single moment, every little bit of something that they have earned. Finally getting that victory. So I'm so happy that Clem finally has his victory, has that offline event. It's really awesome. Of course, this is the Masters Coliseum. This is a $42,500 tournament, and well, not only Masters Coliseum, it's the 7th iteration. So this has been happening for a while now. Actually, it's funny. I was looking back, and it goes all the way back to like 2015. I was looking at a pro player's their Legulac, and I was looking at I was looking at Serral's results, and when he because we were talking the Real Talk strategy about how he had done so well for so long, and how Oliveira winning IEM Katowice this year was much more of a surprise. Like, Serral won, and it was a big deal that Serral won BlizzCon in 2018 or 2019, whatever it was. That was a big deal, but he had won like every single tournament leading up to that. Tournaments with international player or with Korean players, tournaments without Korean players. It was very clear that he was the best player in the world, and BlizzCon was his coronation. So yeah, it was a big deal, and there were tears in people's eyes when he did it, because it's the first time a foreigner has ever done it. But when you talk about what Oliveira was able to do back in February, he had not won a single map at Atlanta. He bombed out, and then he had that magical run. So it was a little bit different. Anyway, I found it much more impactful. Maybe that's just because I was there and I wasn't there at BlizzCon. I don't know. But for now, Oliveira's not doing anything particularly interesting. Natural down, Factory on the way, Reaper expand. You know the deal. And importantly, he's not doing anything weird like what Clem has done in the past, where Clem has been leaning into these SCV blocking of the third base for the last month or so, where he's going to send that SCV scout out maybe, but he's going to keep it there, and then he's going to use it to try to block the third base and force his Zerg opponent, force Dark, force Serral, force Solar, whoever it is, into a really awkward position, into an extremely awkward position, where then they got to expand somewhere else, and that can maybe get found out, and just in general, it's not good. Or not good, but it does hurt the Zerg a little bit. That's not happening in this game. Dark Oliveira playing very much just how you would expect. Maybe it's gonna be Hellion Banshee on the way. So remember, of course, this is round 1 of the Swiss stage, and well, the cool thing about this is not only that this is the Swiss stage, this is the unseeded Swiss stage. So ESL Masters, for example, does a seeded Swiss, where they go and they say, wow, you have to seed effectively you have to seed off some sort of thing for the first round playoff. Or actually, no, even the first round here was unseeded. But ESL will say, okay, X players have more ESL, so they'll rack and stack the people with EPT points, and then the number 1 person in a Swiss group will play the number 16 person in the Swiss group. It goes up and down like that. And then they do some pseudo ranking between each round. So of round 2, or of all the 1-0 matches for ESL, the highest ranked player is going to play the lowest ranked player, which is very fair if we're trying to make sure that the best players continue to get through, but is kind of against this ideal about Swiss, where the point is that the game should be very competitive, that like the entire point of Swiss is to develop as competitive games as possible. So that's what Masters Coliseum is doing here. This is true Swiss. Round 1 matches were actually pulled by a Chinese pro player out of a hat. And then round 2, whenever those happen, whoever wins between Oliveira and Dark is going to get randomly placed against someone, maybe Serral, maybe whoever wins Serral Reynor, maybe whoever wins Cure Trigger. And that means that you're going to have a lot more matches that are more interesting all across these, I think it's 5 rounds of Swiss, which is fantastic. That really is, that does spark a lot of joy. It's one of the reasons why I think Swiss is a really cool format. I haven't talked about the game all that much because realistically not a lot has happened right now. Dark's gone for a roach opener, which is very common, not just for Dark but in the meta at this point, because well, players have started to realize that Cyclone Pressure is really powerful, and Widowmaw or Banelings are not nearly as good as they once were. You don't have that nice timing where all the Banelings have an additional 5 HP, which did make a difference, by the way. There's a reason they nerfed it. There's the reason Reynor's been complaining about it for the last, ever since the nerf happened. So a lot of players, Dark kind of at the forefront here, maybe Serral as well with his low eco into boom, low eco into high eco roach play that he used against Mario in the last Masters Coliseum, is all about getting these 1-1 roach plays and then going from there, generally for greed. But in this game, Dark's going for a very delayed Nidus play. This Nidus is going to be done right around the 7-minute mark, and that tells us that likely this is not a Nidus. If it gets in the main base, that's incredible, and Dark's probably going to try. But the ideal about this, the goal of this, is one Banshee will stay alive. The goal of this, the ideal for this, is for Dark to go and have a really strong reinforcement point outside of Oliveira's third base to really hammer and tongs, really drive into our Terran player's third base and get damage done that way. But for now, Oliveira is active on the map a little bit. Got a couple Widow Mines, and again, Widow Mines are okay. Friendly fire actually makes it even worse for Oliveira. I was gonna say, you know, Widow Mines are okay against a bunch of roaches, but they're not good. They don't really do what you want. Here's another Banshee's gonna go, ooh, barely stay alive. But SCVs are aware of the Nidus in the main base. This is what we're talking about. This theoretically shouldn't get anything up, but it's only a single Marine in the main base here, and this Nidus is barely gonna pop up in time, and only 2 roaches that pop out. Meanwhile, Dark at the third base as well, looking for that power. But the Nidus in the main base continues to not find what it needs. The third base as well. There's a tank that is gonna get set up very quickly. But roaches, they just get on top of it. They knock that down. But it doesn't really matter because of the SCVs getting pulled with a citizen's arrest here and the bio stimming behind. That was actually a fantastic hold for Oliveira. That was extremely good for Oliveira. And now Dark's got to do something else a little bit. Got to think a little bit differently about whatever he's doing, because he committed 2 Nidus heads. That's money. That is expenditure. That is gas that Dark would have liked to find some value out of. So that's step 1. And then step 2, we talk about it. Well, Dark he committed a lot of roaches to the front. Yeah, he got a single tank, but it's a single tank. That is not worth the 20 roaches or so that he got killed. And he got 4 SCVs, but again, not relevant damage. So Dark, he's got a Hydroden on the way, going up to Hive. Lurkers are always going to be useful. And Oliveira gets creeped down, knocks an Overlord is always fantastic. But Oliveira does have to get careful. And even though this initial hold from a reigning world champion was so good, was incredibly well done, he does have to be afraid about any sort of follow-up. Dark can max out he maxed out right now, but I was going to say max out at any time. Run across the map, try to put pressure on once again, catch this Terran army out of position on the map a little bit more. Is Oliveira's going to find a Ravager. Ooh, very nice. And remember, Oliveira doesn't have these Liberators at home. He's looking for pressure for them, but he doesn't have them yet. And another Nidus pops up in the main base. A single Marine trying to defend this. That's not a ton. And it's all about the one time. If If one Nidus gets up here, that can be the difference. And a Nidus is going to pop up, but again, SCVs are pulled, that's fine. No value. But this time its sensor tower goes down. That means it's going to be just a little bit harder for Dark to... I guess one Roach got out. Okay, not super relevant. But it's going to be just a little bit harder for Oliveira to track his opponent's army, to figure out where it is as he battens down the hatches. He tries to ride this timing out. But he's getting there pretty quickly. 2-2 is going to be done in a very short... In fact, it's going to be done in about 10 seconds. More tanks on the way. Oliveira just about maxed out, adding in Marauders now, adding in concussive shells. He started to put himself in this position where the army that he's building can actually not just win, but can steamroll against a bunch of roaches. So first Dark is going somewhere else. And this is where you have to be really afraid. By the way, talk about the Nidus going up once again. Oliveira, when he maxes out, he's not going to have reinforcing lines to really lean on. He's not going to have that power. So yeah, there's a Nidus going up once again. Is there a lurker in it? No. Nothing pops out. And now this the Viking is, I mean, I love that. You see the goop go down here as well. So concussive shells, are they the biggest upgrade? Absolutely not. But you have the time, you have the APM, you have the opportunity. You might as well do something. And grouping up concussives is far more impactful than knocking down 2 Marines out of the fight. So Oliveira looks for the fight here. Biles hit an unsieged tank, which is not what you want. And going up the high ground into lurkers like this is so hard, especially on such a heavy Marine count. But Oliveira wants to do it anyways. Is on the right side, and there's another lurker. There are more Hydras, but this is Oliveira's timing. He's got 2-2 done. Is a couple of ducks to 4 tanks in the 3 tanks at the deck. This one gets saved. Nice job there, Oliveira. And this concave is so good for our Terran player, but is it going to be enough? As the lurkers sit down, they got range, and Oliveira on the concave. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. He may cut through this, sure, fine. He's not even gonna cut through it. His army's so dead. His army is tremendously dead. That was not. If you're a Terran fan, that did not spark joy. That's not what you're looking for. Oliveira's entire army, every single little bit of it, I guess Medivac stayed alive, but every little bit of it fell down. He couldn't get on top of the lurkers. The army supply was big, but it was the supply of Marines. And you might say, hey, Beo, Marines, they're not armored units. They don't take bonus damage from the lurkers. Yeah, but they got 55 HP. They are not tanky at all. Lurker spines eviscerate them, and now here comes this army. Yeah, there are tanks, but the Vipers are going to look to abduct what they can. This army, they're not going to abduct anymore. EMPs are really nice. Snipes go down as well, but it doesn't matter. Dark kind of steamrolls Oliveira in game 1. Bottom left in game number 2 for Dragon Kites Gaming again. It's Dark. And they have to write down a map. He's the Terran player. It's Oliveira, who, by the way, he didn't have the best start to his Atlanta run. He wasn't looking incredible in groups, but he made the playoffs. He made the round of 8. Eventually, he got knocked down by, I want to say, Serral. But his initial, his run was not bad. His run was not bad at all. Yeah, he took a map. Yeah, I knew I remembered something. Yeah, he took a map off Serral, which is, yes, Serral did lose to Clem. Sure, fine. But Serral's no slouch. Even taking a single map off Serral in a TVC is always going to be a difficult thing. And if I remember right, he was close on 1 or 2 more maps. And even in this game, I think he had a really good shot. The first pressure of Dark did nothing. Did inordinately little. Or, that's not the right word. Whatever. It did very little damage. And then he shuts down, I think, 4 or 5 Nidus heads, and then unfortunately he tries to attack up the ramp into 6 or 7 sieged up lurkers and Vipers when his army was very Marine heavy, and it's like, well, that's not gonna work, Oliveira. Even if your concave is really good, and maybe he was relying on a 2-2 versus 1-1 timing, but that timing was 5 seconds long. It really was not much of anything. If you really want to talk about it, it just didn't do anything. now that means that Oliveira is down a map in the series. Of course, it's a best of 3. This is a first round of our playoff, or of our, not even our playoffs, excuse me, of our group stage, where you have to win 3 series before you lose 3 series. Very, very simple. We talked about Swiss stage earlier. So even if he loses this, and even if he loses the next one off some oddness, because again, Oliveira is very good. He had a solid Atlanta. He won the Asian regionals, even against very stiff competition from Firefly. But in general, you know, he's very, very good. I'm not taking anything away from him. By the way, did Firefly? Yeah, Firefly. Oh man, we could potentially get a Firefly Oliveira rematch, which would be super cool. And on top of that, Firefly plays Max Packs tomorrow. If you're watching this live, Firefly plays Max Packs tomorrow, and I am probably, I don't know if I'm the biggest Firefly fan in the world, but I am one of the biggest. That kid is so cool. That kid is so freaking cool. So I'm excited to see him get more opportunities. He will be at well, yeah, he qualified for Katowice. He will be at Katowice. I don't know how well he's gonna do. I know I joked on Real Talk Strategy that he was gonna hit top 2. I don't believe that, but I have a reputation to uphold for having the most unhinged predictions possible, so we gotta go for it. But anyways, Dark's gonna open roaches once again. This is Alcyone. This is a map that has a ready-made choke outside of the 3rd base, or the 4th base, depending on which one you want to take. Dark, in this case, he's going to take the triangular 3rd as the 3rd, so we can really push creep out against any sort of Terran aggression. And this is, again, Reaper Hellion, or Reaper Hellion Banshee, 1-1-1, 3rd base behind. Oliveira is no slouch to the macro game. In fact, when you know he's really on, and there have been times, maybe not game 1, he made a mistake of attacking when he shouldn't have, but there have been times when he really is on, where you look at it and he just plays these late game TVZs and it looks unfair. You look at this and you're like, there's no way. I don't even know how a Zerg player is supposed to win. I think back to Oliveira versus Solar on Waterfall last year, leading up to Katowice, where he did this game and he just boa constricted the map for 20 minutes. And so you looked at it and you're like, I looked at that game afterwards and I think I asked verbatim, so like how in the world is Solar ever supposed to win that game? He cannot get aggressive. The defensive line's too strong. Oliveira's not attacking into him, and it's just he died a slow, sad death. It's a very slow and sad death, and Oliveira's on point. He can absolutely do things like that. Now, again, it requires not attacking up a ramp into 8 sieged up lurkers with +2 and a range and into Vipers with a bunch of Marines. That's not really what you want. But this time, while this is a roach opener, Dark is going to lean into melee play a little bit more. It's going to be 1-1 melee very quickly here. No pit stop for the ranged upgrades. So this tells us that while Dark committed very heavily to 1-1 roaches and went into very quick lurkers as well and all of that, well, this game is going to play a little differently. We might still see the quick hive. In fact, infestation pits on the way very, very quickly. But this is going to be for, again, quick vipers, certainly. Quick adrenal glands, absolutely. But for probably quick ultras as well. Leaning into this idea that sometimes this is kind of the other way these roach openers go, where you get a lot of ultras, and ultras are not good units. But they are 25 minerals cheaper. You know, they did get that buff. More importantly, they're not good units in the late game. Not against the Terran. They die so quickly. Ghosts are really good against the Marauders, Liberators, tanks. Even technically Widow Mines, because it's damage that goes through all their armor. Not really, but anyways, point being, they have a lot of things to deal with them. But if you can get there quickly, you can get there somewhere between 8 to 12 minutes, and you hit with 4 ultras and like a 2-2 timing, +4 armor on the ultras because of chitinous. That is really hard for a Terran to deal with. They really won't have any sort of answer. Maybe some Liberators out, maybe some Marauders out. Well, ghosts aren't going to be hitting the field yet. The tank count's not going to be incredible. And then you can transition into whatever you want. But that timing of Lingbane Ultra is just so powerful. if you can get there as greedy as possible. And that's what Dark's doing. That's why he's going into all the roaches like this, but that's also why he's cutting corners and getting into melee upgrades ASAP. He wants that 2-2 timing. Or, I mean, if you look at this here, the Hive is 3/4 of the way done as 2-2 starts. He's going to have that time. It's not going to be the Serral 820 Ultras. He's not going to have that. But he will have something, 930 maybe. Yeah, not 930 Ultras popping, then something like that. We'll see. But anyways, Baneling's on, or Baneling speed halfway done. Ling speed is finally done now. Now, Oliveira can hit a timing with this. He's got 1-1. All of his opponent's roaches only have +1. Baneling speed's not yet done. The Vipers are not yet done. There's a lot of stuff that's lacking that Dark has invested into this army or into his economy, but it's not there just yet. So if Oliveira can hit this timing, this is what he's going to be looking for. As with the Hellbats, with the tanks, with the Bio, this is a powerful army. It's not maxed out. Absolutely not. He's got a 4th base done that's going to start floating over soon. But the army is still powerful. Banelings look for their connections off the Baneling speed timing. And for now, that seems like it's going to force things back. It's only 3 tanks remaining, not a lot of Hellbats remaining. Most of the Bio has been knocked down here. Roaches run forward, and Dark is just going to shellac this. Yeah, the Marines are probably going to survive at the very end, but this army is just too good for Oliveira to fight into. And that timing that Oliveira maybe had, he tries to headbutt his way up a ramp, and it just doesn't work. I do like what Oliveira is doing here. We talked about timings. We talked about pressure that he's going for. Taking the middle of the map like this is such a powerful opportunity for Terran players, because what it means is that that's a tiny, tiny choke that Banelings cannot get into easily. A tank can hold from behind. You can hold the middle of the map very, very easily. Now, pushing across, getting on top of creep, that's a very different story. But at the very least, you can hold the middle of the map. That establishes your 4th base. That allows you to start to multi-prong a little bit. But again, we're seeing this the 2nd time in a row where Oliveira is going for these timings. And this time, he's going to lose about half the Marines in this army. One gets picked up, and parasitic bombs are really a problem. And both medevacs get so very low. I can't believe. I really struggle to believe that both medevacs survived like they did. But anyways, now that this has happened, Oliveira's been shoved off the map a little bit. He doesn't have that tempo, that position in the middle of the map anymore with the Zelnaga Tower and everything else. Yeah, he's going to get an Overlord. Sure, absolutely. That's something. But he hasn't done any substantive damage to Dark whatsoever. And this is the 2nd time in a row where he's gone for this big 1-1, this 2-2 timing, whatever it is. And it's smart. It's a good idea. But he's hit into a choke the wrong way. He's attacked the wrong way. And then all of a sudden, it's a Dark that he gets another base for free. He gets a gold base for free. He gets the tech that he really wants for free. And Oliveira is set back, reeling once again, climbing clouds on the tanks. And the concave is really nice, but I don't know that it's going to beat up. A single tank is firing right now. Ultra's cleaning up all the Marines on the left side, right side. Well, there's like a single tank remaining, and everything continues to run in. This may not kill Oliveira, but it's not making him live either. Dark is going to be forced back here. The army, Ultras get a little bit too low. He runs out of Lings, runs out of Banelings. But at this point, like I said, Dark's actually not even going to be forced back. He brings his army together, knows the reinforcements are on the way. No Banelings in this army just yet. It's just Ling, Ultra, but Ultras are killing everything. 16 SCVs go down. 8 more Banelings on the way. Dark could make more, but he's making do with what he's got. And these 2 tanks are going to have to do... In fact, wait a minute. The orbital is so low, it's starting to burn. In fact, I think it's just going to go down. Dark has bigger problems that he's going to deal with, though, because Oliveira, he's on death's doorstep. SCVs, are they going to get pulled in time? 45 HP. They should be okay. SCVs are there. They're trying to repair, and yeah, okay, they're going to barely keep that alive. But again, Oliveira has very little opportunity to do much of anything right now. Really, he's been shoved off the map, and now the Lings are going to find their way in once again. This time, even less of a wall. And with 2 tanks, well, 1 tank now, it's all going to get knocked down. Nothing's going to happen. Bailey's come crashing in. Ultras come crashing in. And Dark is going to take this series 2-0. He goes 1 up 1-0 in Swiss, where he's going to face some interesting people in the next round. Now, of course...